Hello class, this is Unit 2, Lesson 5, and don't forget to get down your objective. Today we're going to be finding the percent of a quantity. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to solve problems like this. If you got 45 out of 50 questions correct on a test, what would be your grade? So by the end of this video, you should be able to come back to this question and be able to answer it. If you do bring me back the answer, I'll give you one dojo point. Alright, don't forget to get down your definitions, your VICs, and each example in this video. Definition number 1 is percent.
Percent just means out of 100. So anytime you hear somebody talking about percent, they're talking about out of 100. So 25% is 25 out of 100. Alright, VIC number 1. Visual models are one way to find a percent of a quantity. Alright, so that's the method we're going to use first, looking at example 1.
5 of the 25 girls on the Manchester High School soccer team are in 10th grade. Find the percentage of 10th graders on the team. So here we know that 5 of the girls on that team are in 10th grade, so we need to draw a model to try to represent to see what is the percentage. Alright, so the first thing I can do is
I can draw a full bar model to represent
100%. And if I look at my problem, the total 100% would be 25 girls. %, would be 25 girls. Alright. I know down here that 0 girls would be 0%. So that's not hard to figure out. Now, I need to divide this evenly into groups of 5. That way I can see how much would the percentage of 5 girls be. So I would divide my fraction bar into fifths. And this would be 5, and then we would have 10, 15, 20. Alright, and now I can see that each fifth, if I divide 100 by 5, that is 20%. So each of these are 20, so that's 40%, 60%, 80%, and then 100%. So if I look at my visual model, 5% of the entire thing, or 5 of the girls, would equal 20%. Alright?
I wanted to take a second to zoom in and explain to you why we divided up our bar into 5 pieces. Well, 5 is 1/5 of 25, and we'll see that if we put 5 out of 25. If I simplify that, I can simplify it by reducing by 5. I would get 1/5, which lets me know that I would divide my fraction bar into fifths. So that's how I knew that 5 of the girls would represent 20%. Alright?
VIC number 2. Equivalent ratios can be used to find the percent of a quantity. So just like visual models can be used, we can use equivalent ratios. And some of y'all may find this way easier than drawing a visual model. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is first write our ratio.
So let's go back to those 5 out of the 25 girls who were 10th graders. Whoops. So 5 out of 25 were 10th graders, so I'll write the ratio. And to turn it into a percent, I want to see how much is out of 100, because remember, percent means out of 100, so I'll put up 100 there. And now I can make my equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios. They all mean the same thing. So 25, how would I get from 25 to 100? I would multiply times 4. So whatever I do to the denominator, I must do it to the numerator. So I would multiply that times 4. 5 times 4 is 20, so 20 out of 100, which equals 20%. And see, that's way faster than drawing a visual model. Let's look at another quick example. 5 out of 20 correct on a test. So 5 out of 20. I want to set that equal to out of 100. And now I think to myself, how would I get from 20 multiplied times what gets me 100? Well, 20 times 5 equals 100, which means I want to multiply my numerator times 5 as well. So 5 times 5 is 25. So that would get me 25%, which is not a very good grade.
Alright class, at this part of the video, I wanted to take a second just to stop and point out some very important percent conversions. Wanted to take a second to give you a chance to copy down the chart just in case you couldn't see it. So take a second to make sure you get down the chart and then I'll start back up the video. Alright, back to the Mr. Austin that you may encounter. Alright, so I definitely want you to get down this particular chart, which shows you some common percent ratio and decimal equivalent. And by equivalent, I mean they're equal. So 0% is equal to the ratio 0 compared to the whole. So that means nothing. And the decimal, of course, would be nothing as well. So 0.0. For 25%, 25% is equal to 1/4. And that's another one that you see a lot in the real world, like 25% off a certain price. The decimal would be 25 hundredths. All right. For 50%, a lot of you know this one. 50% is the same thing as 1/2 or 1 to 2, 1 out of 2. And the decimal would be 0.5. And if you look at the decimal and compare it to the percent, we have an invisible 0 here, but when we do decimals, we just drop off that 0. So it'll just be 5/10. 75% is the same thing as 3/4 or 3 out of 4, which is the same thing as 75 hundredths. And then of course 100% that's everything. So 1 out of 1, which is 1.0. So those aren't hard to remember. So I suggest that you memorize them. Go ahead and download those into your brain computer. And you really want to be very familiar with these conversions. All right. Let's look at definition number 2. Def number 2, I want you to really understand the definition or the difference between a part and a whole. A part is just a portion of the whole. So we're looking at these percentages. 25%, well, that's a part of the entire 100%. It's not the whole thing. So we really want to be able to identify what is the part, and then the second definition is whole. The whole is the full amount, or 100%. So when we're looking at word problems, we want to know what is our part and what is our whole. If you look back at example 1, the part would be the number of 10th grade girls. The whole would be the entire team. All right, so part and whole, definitely download those two into your brain computer because you definitely want to know those. All right. Vic number 3. Decimals can be converted to percents by moving the decimal 2 places to the right. So looking right here, 5 hundredths, to change it to a percent, I would just move my decimal 2 places to the right and it becomes 15%. Or sorry, 15 hundredths becomes 15%. Here with 2/10, again, I can still move it 2 places to the right. I would just need to add in a 0. Add in a 0, that way I can make the 2 moves. And then I'll go 1 place, 2 places, and it becomes 20%. So that is very useful when we're trying to convert a quantity into a percent. because here I have 5 out of 25. So if I were to convert this ratio, which is 5 out of 25, into a decimal, that would be 5 divided by 25. And then I would just divide normally, which means I'm going to have to add a decimal 0. 25 will go into 50 twice. I would get 50 and 0, which will then get me 2/10 as my decimal. And 2/10, I know I'll add another 0. I'll add a 0. And it'll become 20%. Alright. Real quick, 5 out of 20 correct on a test. Again, I can take that 5 divided by 20. I will need to add a decimal 0. 20 goes into 50 twice. 2 times 20 is 40. Subtract, I'll get 10. I don't want a remainder, so I'll add a 0. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100, and now I get a remainder 0. I just move my decimal up into my quotient. So this is 25 hundredths. And to convert a decimal into a percent, I just move my decimal place 2 places to the right, and I will get 25%. Y'all, I hope you guys got the information from this video. Don't forget to go back and check at the beginning to see if you can answer that problem. Alright, see you guys in class tomorrow.